Hello and welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us as we continue our chronological read through of Scripture. Today we're going to conclude our reading of the book of Judges. I believe this is our 8th day in the book of Judges. Now, this final account in the book of Judges it's really disturbing. Maybe even more so when we realize that even though it's placed at the very end of the book, it appears to happen relatively early in the time of Judges. It's hard to believe how quickly and how far Israel falls. There's a lot of details that I'm not going to recount here as we go through this. You'll see them when you do your reading. Reading can at times become maybe a little bit confusing, but we're going to try and summarize the essence of it here. The reading talks about a traveling Levite. He and his unfaithful concubine, to whom he's just been recently reconciled. They're traveling at the time. They spend the night in the city of Gibeah. That's in the territory of Benjamin. Now, there's a lot of similarities between this night in Gibeah and the night that the angel spent in Sodom. The Levite and his concubine and the servant were going to spend the night in the city center. But an old man comes along and says, "Oh, no, you don't want to do that. Come and stay with me." A group comes to the man's house, just as it did in the account of Sodom, comes to the man's house and wants to basically tries to get the man, the Levite, out. And the man says, "No, he won't do that." And actually, in this particular case, the old man offers both his daughter and the Levite's concubine to this raucous, lustful crowd. Not exactly sure what transpires, but in the end, the Levite forces his concubine out of the house and into the hands of the crowd, where she's mistreated and abused the entire night, to the point that when she returns to the door in the early hours of the morning, she basically just drops dead there. Well, the Levite goes out. He takes his concubine home. He cuts her into 12 pieces, and he sends those to the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, I guess really the 11 remaining tribes, who then gather in utter disgust to punish the tribe of Benjamin for letting such a thing happen in their midst. A civil war ensues with heavy losses on both sides until Benjamin is utterly destroyed, with only 600 men surviving. By the way, I misspoke a little bit earlier. The 12 tribes would obviously include also the Levites, so there would be indeed 12 tribes. The remaining tribes have gathered together. They have punished Benjamin. There's only 600 men surviving. All of the women have been slaughtered. None of them remain. In Israel, the tribes of Israel have sworn not to let their daughters marry a Benjamite. So now the elders have got a problem. They're feeling that they don't want the tribe of Benjamin to disappear, but how are they going to get them wives? Well, what they do is they locate an Israel city that did not participate in attacking Benjamin. Then they basically say, well, they're part and parcel of what Benjamin has done, so they go and they kill everybody in that city except for the young virgin women. They find 400 of them. They give them to the Benjamites as wives. Well, there's still another 200 men that need women. So they devise a scheme for kidnapping young virgin women so that the fathers don't need to give them up to the Benjamites, because they had sworn not to do that. They're simply taken instead. I mean, what a mess this is. As I mentioned before, there's a lot more detail, but in looking at the big picture, it's really plain to see that at least some, if not most of Israel, had already become so depraved that you couldn't distinguish them from the people that lived in Sodom and Gomorrah at Abraham's time. It's just unbelievable. None of the players in this particular account do what is right. The Levite is at fault. Even the man who gave them shelter is at fault. Obviously, the people are at fault. The children of Israel who come to try and avenge this are at fault. I mean, Israel's attempt to avenge the rape and the murder of one person ends up resulting in a tribe nearly being completely wiped out. Over 40,000 of the children of Israel die on the battlefield in this. and 600 women are for all intents and purposes raped as they're taken for wives and not given. None of these women had any say in what was going on, nor did their families have any say in what was going on. The tribe of Benjamin does indeed recover. I mean, remember, King Saul and the Apostle Paul are both Benjamites. So the tribe does recover, although it never becomes really that large again. But the propensity for the children of Israel to do what is right in their own eyes rather than the eye of God is really clear. Indeed, the book of Judges ends with these words. It says, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes." And yet, in spite of this, as we'll come to see, God continues to work among his people. He continues to preserve a remnant for himself. And God continues to be faithful to his plan of salvation, even when it's being worked out through an unfaithful people. What an amazing God we have, who's redeemed us in spite of ourselves. May God be with you and bless you. Tomorrow when we gather next, we'll begin looking at the book of Ruth. It also happens during this time of the Judges, but it is a story of quite another tenor. I look forward to joining with you again tomorrow.